frightening. The drivers in Malaysia do not respect pedestrians. And it's the scooters you got to especially watch out for. They will run you over until you become as flat as a roti canai.
Seperti roti canai. Remuk tipis dong bang. Lebih murah mana, Malaysia atau Turki? Itu lebih murah. Assalamualaikum, Elsa di sini. Hai guys, hai semua, halo tetangga. Gimana kabar teman-teman semua? Semoga sehat selalu, semoga bahagia selalu, dan semoga hari-harinya selalu a good day. Selamat datang di channel YouTube Widianti Putri. Hari ini agak sedikit berbeda nih guys. Wah, ini dari channel Snail Travelers, langsung di subscribe ya guys. Biasanya kan kayak Malaysia versus Indonesia, Malaysia versus Singapura, atau Malaysia versus Jepang. Nah, hari ini kita akan melihat Malaysia versus Turki. Kenapa kita akan mensandingkan dengan Turki? Nah, ini akan ada hal menarik yang akan kita ketahui dari siapa sih nama uncle-nya? Aku nggak tahu nama uncle-nya. Jadi akan kita melihat bagaimanakah menurut pandangan dia, apakah dia lebih prepare untuk Malaysia atau dia lebih prepare untuk Turki guys. Karena mengingat dua negara ini adalah negara Islam, mayoritas Islamnya banyak, dan katanya dua negara ini juga menjadi rekomendasi karena tinggal di sini biaya hidupnya murah gitu. Bagaimana menurut dia dengan dua negara ini? Apakah worth it untuk ditinggali? Ya, kita tidak melihat agama ya, pokoknya untuk semua kalangan, apakah dua negara ini worth it atau enggak. Tapi sebelum dimulai video lesson, seperti biasa aku mau ngajakin teman-teman semua dulu untuk subscribe channel ini dan aktifkan lonceng notifikasinya supaya tidak ketinggalan updatean terbaru dari channel ini. Dan bagi teman-teman yang mau request, bisa banget DM di Instagram aku di @elsa_widianti_putri. Ya udah, tanpa berlama-lama, tanpa membuang masa, jumlah kita mulai video lesson. Are you ready? Let's go.
After living for about 1 year each in Malaysia and in Turkey, the time has come to make a video that compares these two
Dia
wonderful
udah pernah
countries.
tinggal di Malaysia sama Turki 1 tahun. Jadi dia ingin memberikan pengalaman kepada kita ya.
So of course the food is different, right? In
Betul.
Malaysia there are a lot more dishes that use rice and
Betul
noodles,
banget.
while Turkey is a little bit more meat heavy. But beyond the differences in what makes up a typical diet in Malaysia compared to Turkey, there are differences in the role that food plays in the culture and everyday life. For example, food in Malaysia plays a much larger part of socialization.
Betul.
And what I mean by that is, if you are hanging out with friends, you will probably be eating something. In Turkey, food is less important, but tea is the dominant form of showing hospitality. For example, just going into, say, a mattress store to look at mattresses, you might be offered tea in the store.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, non-halal food items like pork and alcohol are usually in a separate area of the grocery store that is staffed by non-Muslims. Turkey seems to be more strict with pork. It is very difficult to find anywhere here, but much less strict on alcohol, which you can find just about everywhere. Another difference in food between Malaysia and Turkey is breakfast. In Malaysia, you might eat fish for breakfast, just like you would for lunch or dinner. In Turkey, a traditional Turkish breakfast will be made up of...
Nah, mungkin perbedaannya itu ya guys, dari segi untuk sarapan, Malaysia itu makan paginya aja udah berat gitu. Pagi, siang, malam ya ayam, ikan, nasi gitu kan kalau di Malaysia. Nah, kalau di Turki mereka memang terbiasa kayak salad gitu, kayak roti, makanan-makanan yang ibaratnya nggak berat gitu.
About 10 or 15 small plates of small portions of cheeses, breads, jams, olives,
potato,
and a lot more, as you can see here. And finally, there is much
lebih ringan gitu makanannya.
more variety in the food in Malaysia, while in Turkey, finding international food is more of a challenge. We saw and ate at several Turkish restaurants in Malaysia, but in Turkey, there is only one Malaysian restaurant that we know of, and unfortunately, it was closed when we went to that Malaysian restaurant. But we're planning to head back to Malaysia soon, and our stomachs are already getting excited about it.
Di Malaysia tuh banyak pilihan makanannya gitu.
In Malaysia, it is pretty common for a family to live in a high-rise apartment building, many of these approaching around 20 or 30 stories high, and there could be up to a couple of hundred units in the building. The building will quite often have a swimming pool, a gym, a common area or lobby, and security personnel. Living in a building like this would be fairly common for a middle-income family in Malaysia.
Karena memang di Malaysia harga rumah tuh mahal ya guys. Jadi mungkin ya harga tanah juga mahal mungkin di situ. Jadi mungkin nih sepengalaman aku mereaction video-video di Malaysia, tinggal di apartemen itu jauh lebih prepare. Maksudnya kayak dalam untuk sewa itu lebih murah gitu dibanding mungkin beli rumah. Mungkin ya mungkin. Karena aku juga lihat banyak banget orang yang lebih milih tinggal di apartemen dibandingkan dengan membeli rumah sendiri. Tapi nggak tahu juga ya, mungkin setiap orang beda-beda preferensinya.
In Turkey, there are apartment buildings like this too, but these are likely above the middle income category and more into the luxury housing category, especially when you start thinking about a building with a pool and a gym. What is more common in Turkey for a middle income family, especially in our neighborhood in Izmir where we live, would be a building that is about 4 or 5 stories tall and has maybe 5 to 10 units available in the building. The building might not have an elevator, so when you need to move furniture into your apartment where there is no elevator, you can actually rent a portable elevator to have your furniture lifted up to the apartment's balcony.
Keren ya. Ternyata gitu ya guys.
Shopping
Malaysia sih kayaknya.
You will find both shopping malls and outdoor markets in both countries, but in Malaysia there is more of a leaning toward the malls and less toward the outdoor markets. There are some outdoor markets in Malaysia, often called wet markets, where you can buy fish and meat and produce. But in Malaysia, there are an abundance of shopping malls. Many of these malls have a full grocery store. They have multiple floors of individual stores. They usually have a massive food court and also some type of entertainment venue such as a movie theater. In Turkey, there are malls like this too, but not as many as Malaysia. And in Turkey, it is more common to find pedestrian zones that are lined with stores. And the stores tend to be a little smaller in Turkey and bigger in Malaysia. For example, in Malaysia, there is a store called Mr. DIY that sells a little bit of everything. School supplies, hardware, kitchen supplies. And there are stores like that in Turkey too, but it's more common to find small family-run stores that focus on one type of product. Here you see a tiny little store that just sells items you might want to buy for a birthday party. And here is a store that only sells different types of food containers.
Kayak satu toko jualnya itu aja, satu toko jualnya berbeda lagi.
Fasten your seatbelt and get ready to be terrified. I'm going to talk about driving next. And let me just say that we ourselves have not actually driven in either Turkey or Malaysia. We are not brave enough for that. But as pedestrians, the behavior of drivers is very important to us. I'll talk about driving in Turkey first. And from the point of view of a pedestrian in Turkey, I would describe the driving as frightening. And it's those scooters that we really need to watch out for. There are scooters zooming on sidewalks, scooters going the wrong way on the road, scooters running red lights. Our biggest threat to injury and death in Turkey isn't from natural disasters, isn't from disease. Our biggest threat is getting run over by a scooter until we become as flat as a guzleme. So, that's Turkey. Now, how would I describe the driving in Malaysia? Frightening. The drivers in Malaysia do not respect pedestrians. And it's the scooter.
Ayo, komen di bawah katanya pemandu di Malaysia tidak respect terhadap pejalan kaki.
The driving in Malaysia? Frightening. The drivers in Malaysia do not respect pedestrians. And it's the scooters you got to especially watch out for. They will run you over until you become as flat as a roti canai.
Seperti roti canai. Remuk tipis dong bang.
So yeah, the drivers in both Malaysia and Turkey are not always
tergantung
courteous.
Pribadi juga sih
but
masing-masing.
Believe it or not, there are places in the world that are worse. I'm looking at you, India. I'm looking at you, Vietnam.
Wah, India tuh memang parah sih. Apalagi hornnya gitu kan, klaksonnya udah pusing.
So here are a couple of tips to make being a pedestrian less horrifying in Malaysia and Turkey. Look both ways when crossing the street, even on a
Jadi
one-way
hati-hati ya
road,
kalau mau
and never assume a
nyebrang.
driver is going to stop or even slow down for you. Prices.
Oke, harga.
So anyone thinking about
Jualan.
living in a new country needs to at least have a rough idea what it's going to cost there, right? Well, both Malaysia and Turkey are fairly inexpensive for a foreigner from somewhere like the United States. A typical apartment in Malaysia might be in the $500 range, whereas in Turkey it might be $400 or lower. But like I said, in Malaysia, the apartment will more often come with a pool, gym, and security. Food prices are fairly similar, maybe a little bit higher in Malaysia. More of the food in Malaysia is imported, while in Turkey, more of it is produced within the country. The price for public transportation is similar in both countries. Owning a car is cheaper in Malaysia, and petrol or gasoline is at a much lower cost in Malaysia compared to Turkey. But alcohol is cheaper in Turkey. Overall, based on our personal lifestyle, we think the two of us could comfortably live long-term in Malaysia in the $1,300 to $1,500 range per month, while Turkey might be a few $100s less than that.
Oke, jadi untuk pengalaman mereka hidup di Malaysia itu sebulan tuh sekitar 1.300 sampai 1.500 per bulan. Oke, kalau di Turki mereka hanya menghabiskan $1.100 sampai $1.300. Jadi lebih murah kehidupan di Turki, guys, menurut pandangan dari abang ini gitu, uncle ini.
Quick fire categories.
Quick fire.
Okay, for the rest of the video, I'm going to quickly name a category and then briefly tell you which of the two countries
transportasi, ada keselamatan, ada cuaca, imigrasi, keadaan ekonomi gitu ya.
think wins the prize. Here we go. Communication. Malaysia definitely wins this category.
Betul,
it is
setuju sih.
easier for us to communicate in Malaysia because English is widely spoken there.
Betul.
Internet
Bahasa kedua,
speeds. Malaysia's internet is super fast. Turkey's internet is definitely slower, but still fast enough for us.
Oke, internet
Public
lebih cepat.
transportation. This one is a tie. Both Malaysia and Turkey have great transportation systems, both within cities and also between cities. Safety. We think both countries are generally safe from crime, so this category is also a tie. Weather. We prefer the weather in Turkey because you get 4 seasons. In Malaysia, the temperature is hot all year long. Immigration
Lagi di
policies.
Indonesia.
For Malaysia, unless you are applying for residency through the state of Sarawak, the amount of money you need to qualify is completely ridiculous. Turkey's immigration requirements are easier to meet, but the rules have been
kalau di
changing and
Turki
are
lebih
also becoming
dipermudah.
more difficult. Healthcare. Completely adequate in both countries, but Malaysia rates higher according to the World Health Organization. Economic stability. Malaysia easily has the stronger economy right now.
Setuju.
So
Malaysia
there you
ketiga
have
atau
it.
kedua
We
gitu.
love both countries, love the people in both countries, and we would not hesitate to recommend either Malaysia or Turkey to someone who is thinking about living abroad. Alright, please hit that subscribe button. We've got more videos from around the world, including Malaysia, coming soon. Thanks for traveling with us.
Oke guys, nah jadi seperti itu ya. Dua negara ini sama-sama baik kalau kalian pengen menjadikan dua negara ini sebagai tempat tinggal, Malaysia dan juga Turki. Nah tadi abang ini udah memberikan referensi mereka, sebulan mereka tinggal di Malaysia dan sebulan mereka tinggal di Turki itu biayanya berapa. Tadi di Malaysia, sebulan mereka tinggal di Malaysia itu sekitar 1.300 sampai 1.500 US dollar. Terus untuk di Turki mereka hanya mengeluarkan pengeluaran itu sebesar 1.100 sampai 1.300 dolar saja guys. Jadi untuk keperluan kehidupan mungkin makanan, bahan-bahan, bayar listrik atau semacamnya, bayar sewa apartemen dan semacamnya, mungkin mereka habiskan segitu. Tapi balik lagi ke masing-masing juga, karena kan keperluan orang juga berbeda-beda. Mungkin abang ini keluarganya pengeluarannya segitu gitu. Jadi untuk lebih murah mana, Malaysia atau Turki? Itu lebih murah Turki untuk biaya kehidupannya. Cuman ada di Malaysia yang pastinya lebih lengkap makanannya, tapi pastinya abang ini tidak bisa memilih untuk Malaysia ataupun Turki karena kedua negara ini sama-sama membuat mereka nyaman tinggal di sana gitu, karena memang negara yang mayoritas Islam kan. Jadi maupun Malaysia ataupun Turki, kedua negara ini sama-sama baik untuk dijadikan tempat tinggal bagi teman-teman. Jadi terserah teman-teman. Ini adalah referensi untuk teman-teman bingung nih mau tinggal di mana gitu kan. Nah, mungkin dua negara Islam ini bisa menjadi referensi teman-teman untuk tinggal gitu, karena ya tidak jauh beda sih guys pengeluaran untuk biaya hidupnya gitu, cuman beda berapa ratus dolar doang. Pengen yang mana gitu? Kalau di Malaysia pastinya kemudahan bahasa lebih bagus gitu kan, bisa menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Nah kalau di Turki mungkin hanya sedikit yang mengerti bahasa Inggris dan ya sulitnya komunikasi dalam bahasa Turki juga gitu. Betul. Tidak kayak cukup sekian video reaction kali ini. Bagi teman-teman yang suka sama video ini, jangan lupa untuk like, comment, dan subscribe. Dan kita ketemu di next video. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.